Okay, it's 1:17. Let's see what we can do in, is that 10, call it 12 minutes. Uh, Meta had their event. They showed off their newest headset, and Alex Heath had a conversation with Zuckerberg. It's at The Verge. I'll link to it, in particular the relevant section, which to me is the extent that it's it's clear to me that Zuck understands something which I think is absolutely fundamental, which is presence. Using technology to provide the sensation to a user that they are in the presence of other users. And I think it's worthwhile to highlight a couple of the things that he said on that topic uh, in order to provide a little more context. The primary value of it, by which he's referring to building virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality technology, the ability to feel and deliver this sense of presence. And he goes on, what is the ultimate expression of social technology? You're not going to get it on a phone. And again, it being AR, MR, VR products, it's going to enable the ultimate expression of what we set out to do, building social software. Those quotes may seem disjointed. Again, I'll link to the relevant section in the conversation if anybody's interested. To me, this is proof that he gets it, that photorealism is frankly a non-goal. And you could stop right there and say, like, well, in the version of the future where everybody has the Tony Stark like experience and all they have to do is wear a pair of glasses and you have relevant, useful information overlaid on the real world, there's a tremendous amount of hardware engineering and incredibly difficult uh, science and engineering that has to go get done in order to enable that, right? It has to be a thing that you can wear on your head and have a battery that will last for all of the hours that you will be awake. And it has to be comfortable enough that you'll want to literally present yourself to this plane of reality, meet space, and not think you look like a whatever you think a goofball looks like. But even in those use cases, right, a significant percentage of the use cases which, frankly, the bulk of the spectrum between maximal utility and what someone with my accumulated world experience would define as, um, you know, distraction that verges on contributing to the downfall of society at large. The Bell distribution there, you don't need photorealism. You don't need to render a human being perfectly. What you need to be able to do is like place interface elements and information in the real world. And that's why there are difficult engineering problems to go solve, right? Because you have to create a display that is truly transparent, that the user can see through, and you have to have cameras and other forms of sensors so that when you cross paths with someone that you vaguely recognize, and you want the machine to put a label on that person and say, this is their name, this is the last time you saw them, and their their spouse's birthday is n number of days away. Classic, like, relevant, high utility use case for this sort of, stuff that we used to consider to be science fiction. None of that requires photorealism, right? What it requires is show me the real world and then accurately label the real world for me. And then at the other end of the spectrum, the things that I'm far more bearish on are use cases like uh, someone wants to present a visual representation of themselves that is, I mean, take the most extreme example. Somebody wants to face tune their appearance to look what they perceive to be maximally desirable, and they want to enforce that appearance on anyone else who sees them, right? That's a use case where photorealism is quote unquote necessary, right? And and it'll take a long time to get there. I'm not personally convinced of the utility of that, but a less extreme version of that, where someone has, a gender expression or a creative expression about themselves that they would like to offer to the general public. I mean, you know, this is what makeup is. Should you not be able to engineer that using software? Should you be required in a world where everybody gets to wear Tony Stark's glasses to still rely on like smudging physical material on your face? No, that's not reasonable. It's perfectly reasonable to say, like, I'm going to design a filter for my face that places like loud, exciting makeup, or maybe changes the color of part of my hair, or puts a piercing on my face. And I want anyone who sees me in a public space to get that version of me. That's a reasonable ask. It arguably doesn't have the same level of utility as I'm in a city I've never been in before and I need directions to the police station or the public library or the hospital, but you can justify it. Getting to that place is important. However, if you don't sell act effectively to the user the idea that the thing that is represented to you by software, right, that is drawn into your reality, as opposed to like just existing in meat space in the physical world. If you don't believe that the presence is there, then why would you put the things on in the first place? Maybe, and phones aren't really any different here. There are people that carry around smartphones simply because they have to make phone calls and because they keep a calendar and because they travel often enough that they need access to up-to-date maps. I don't travel that much. If you took away my ability to look at a map at a moment's notice, I'd probably be fine, right? Like if you forced me to live with a paper atlas, I'd be annoyed, but like my life would go on. There are people that use smartphones today and don't invest themselves in what, again, Zuck, I think, described very well, social software. But there are a tremendous number of people who do, for all reasons. And, you know, it's worth putting a pin there because, you know, I think, as I made clear last time, I think Twitter is one of the best expressions of social software ever created, and I am long Twitter in a way where the I think that is the final form of social software as it is at least designed for phones. I got a couple more thoughts. What's up?
I was gonna say, are you okay for a little bit to get this thing rock and rolling? I'm just gonna run and grab my tea.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
No,
watching the clock.
no, you're good. I just
I won't need you.
want you to come in there and be like, who the fuck is it?
No, don't worry about it. I'll see you in a little bit. But again, I don't want to turn this into another conversation about Twitter. There will be plenty of other times for that. The current headset is in the one that just shipped, which I know nothing about. I haven't looked at any coverage. I've only listened to this brief excerpt of an interview, conversation with Zuck and Alex. But just from what little I understand, they're investing first and foremost in three areas: hardware engineering, um, a software and services and developer ecosystem, sort of flywheel, and this priority of the most important aspect of the user experience is presence. It's the belief that speaks to like the lowest levels of our brains as human beings in order to convince you that you are in the same physical space with the user who's they're being represented by software. And while today the representation of that user in software is cartoonish, expressive, animated, crude, whatever adjectives you want to throw at it, it's telling to me that based on what Zuck has said, none of that matters. None of that's important because they know that those things will get solved over time, right? What is important is convincing you, even in its most crude, animated state, that the presence is sticky enough that you'll want to keep using it. And again, for my money, that's proof that Zuck gets it. How we feel about the fact that he gets it is a topic for another time. But for right now, that's all I have to say.